Hello and welcome to Play Games. In this video, I'm going to go over why I am extremely excited for The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. So let's jump in. As soon as I started watching the first trailer for The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, I was just excited to see a new Zelda game announcement. I didn't care what it was. It could be an over-the-top view game, it could be a remake, it could be a release on the Nintendo Switch Online, like classic consoles. I didn't care. The beginning of the trailer started with Link running into a room where Zelda's trapped in a crystal by who else but Ganon. Link starts to fight Ganon to try to rescue her. So up to this point, it's pretty standard stuff. I really like the idea of Nintendo releasing these over-the-head, over-the-top view Zelda games in between their mainline 3D entries, because we know those 3D entries can take like a whole childhood basically to come out. So I'm fine with these over-the-top view games, especially being mainline entries. I'm here for it. Like, that's more Zelda, and I really think these type of Zelda games that like maybe aren't the most graphically impressive, I think they demand a creativity with one, the art style, which I think looks really good, and two, the gameplay hook. I feel like it needs to stand out since it's just not this massive game they can tout around and, you know, just get people to pay attention to because of that. The trailer continues and you see Link fight Ganon and ultimately beats Ganon, and Ganon kind of disappears, but you see his weapon in the ground, which creates this rift that starts spreading. It gets Link starts sinking in it, and before he's able to get swallowed, he's able to shoot an arrow towards Zelda, which frees her from her crystal prison. She runs away, and she gets outside, the rift stops spreading, but you can see through this panned out view that Hyrule's basically completely covered in these rifts, which kind of sets the stage of what you're going to be dealing with in this game. So at this point, I was thinking, and I'm sure a lot of you guys who watched the trailer were also thinking, that through these rifts, there might be some kind of second world you'd be traveling to. And I personally thought that there might be some kind of gameplay mechanic where you switch between Link and Zelda through the different worlds. At this point, I wasn't thinking that Nintendo would go, you know, full-fledged, this is Zelda's game, Link, you're to be rescued. I was kind of thinking it would be something where you'd switch between the two. Well, the rest of the trailer made it clear that this isn't going to be a traditional Zelda game, and it also made it clear that Zelda was going to be the one and only protagonist. I mean, of course we can find things out later, but I feel like it's pretty clear that that's the main character for this game. I was interested in how the gameplay was looking, but also a little concerned after what we kind of saw with how you're going to be traversing and battling in Hyrule as Zelda. The trailer introduces a companion character named Tri, who is shown to be giving Zelda a new item which is called the Tri-Rod. With the Tri-Rod, Zelda is able to create echoes of objects and enemies, and she's able to recreate these echoes whenever she wants. This ranges from beds, pots, birds, and even cubes of water. So, I mean, I can only imagine the other things you're going to be able to make with this. At first look, this had me really excited because I could tell that this would create so many different ways to solve puzzles, to move around Hyrule, and to fight enemies. I also figure this probably means there's freedom to beat the temples in whichever way you want to, and potentially even fight the final boss right away. But I mean, I'm not gonna get my hopes up with that. Breath of the Wild was really cool in that way, but even just doing the temples or kind of beating the game in the order you want, I feel like would be really cool, especially for the over-the-top view Zelda game. Now, with the freedom they show for this game, I started to worry if maybe it would be a little too easy to skip areas. One of my few complaints with Tears of the Kingdom was sometimes it felt like it was a little too easy to kind of traverse if you made the right vehicle. Now, the world was huge, and you had basically a fuel mechanic, so I get all that, but sometimes it still felt that way. So I hope that this isn't the case for this game. I hope that there's some kind of balance or some kind of limitation so you can't just spam things and do whatever you want, even though that would be pretty cool. Another concern that I had was the combat. With what was shown in the first trailer, I thought combat was going to be interesting, especially with the ability to summon echoes of enemies to fight for you. But my worries come with how it's going to flow. I thought maybe there could be potential for things to get a little janky, especially summoning a lot of things. The frame rate I feel like is going to get bad, and I just don't know how it's going to flow. I think there's a potential for it to feel a little bit slow. I really try not to count something out that's different. When I was younger, anytime a sequel or a follow-up game was different than, that game it's following up, like, that I liked, I was really quick to criticize. I feel like that's part of when you're younger, like, you like what you like, and you don't want to like anything else. This happened with Super Mario Sunshine and Majora's Mask, because they were so different than their predecessors. Those games became some of my favorites, so I'm not about to count this game out. Overall, after watching that announcement trailer, I was cautiously optimistic. Hyrule looked really expansive. I always enjoyed the Zelda games where you could travel between two different worlds. I mean, it didn't really show you doing that, but I mean, come on. And I was excited about playing as Zelda with her new abilities, even though I have some concerns. I knew I'd get the game, but I wasn't at the point where I was counting down the days, especially because this announcement trailer came in June, which wasn't too far away from the release in September, but it just didn't have me like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom did. Fast forward to a week before release, which is when I'm recording this. I know there's been 3 additional trailers since the first one I watched, but I've been really busy and I haven't had a chance to watch them. I also thought I had a pretty good grasp on what the game was going to be about, and I've kind of gotten to a point where I don't like watching too much before I play a game so that the experience will be as novel as possible. But I started seeing a lot of thumbnails for these trailers that came out within the last month, and the one that got me was the one where it showed Zelda on a horse, and I'm like, you can mount a horse in the top view Zelda game? Like, of course, I'm gonna watch these. So yeah, after I saw that, I ended up watching all the trailers. And let me tell you, after watching the rest of the trailers for the game, I went from pretty excited to now I am counting down the days, which, there weren't many to count down, but still, there's so much more to this game than I thought, and I'm not going to go over each trailer, but I'm going to just kind of go over the standout information from all of them. The first thing that had my attention was the locations shown for this game. They show clips of Castletown, Gyrudo Desert, Jabal Waters, Eldin Volcano, Kakariko Village, and Faron Wetlands. What excites me isn't the variety of the locations, but how lively they are. It definitely seems like this game is really pulling from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Castletown seems lively and filled with people, Gyrudo Desert has a town for the Gyrudo, ruins to explore, and it seems like there's weather mechanics for it, and like sandstorms and temperature effects. Jabal Waters is a waterway where you'll find Sea Zora and River Zora, which both have their own villages, and it seems like there's some kind of drama happening with them, which I think is a really cool dynamic to have in the game. Eldin Volcano has cliffs and lava and probably some other stuff. And Faron Wetlands is a lush labyrinth of vegetation occupied by the Deku Scrubs. All of these characters I love from the other Zelda games, and I just feel like there's such a diversity of the characters you're going to be dealing with, so I am really excited to explore these locations. It seems like the characters in these locations will give you side quests, both small and large. And with that, they're bringing back the adventure log, which is very similar to the adventure log in Tears of the Kingdom Breath of the Wild. Even like the same hub and animations, it's just very familiar, which I like. Especially, sometimes it's easy to get lost with some of the ways games handle side quests, so I really like that one. I feel like it makes it really straightforward, so I'm really glad they're bringing that back. Some people have complained Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom seemed a little too empty at times. I don't really agree with that, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case or be an issue for this game. They're also bringing back travel waypoints, which just further shows how large the map is, especially for an overhead view Zelda game. And one of the most exciting things for me is that once you learn the Carrot Echo, you'll be able to call your horse, to which I think is just going to be really cool riding it around as Zelda. I mean, come on. I keep comparing this game to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but I think the similarities are just really apparent. This game introduces a smoothie system where if you bring ingredients to a smoothie shop, you can make smoothies that will give different effects. I'm assuming like this is the cooking system, like in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, where you get effects and buffs like cold resistance and heat resistance for intense environments, which would make sense for the Gerudo Desert in this new game. They just kept making all the right decisions for this game. Next, they announced that you're going to be able to wear different outfits and accessories, which might seem like a small difference, but for me, when you're able to change your outfits in these games, I just think it makes you so much more connected to the character, and it just brings you more into the world. These different clothes and accessories also increase your abilities, which I think is going to just add more to the gameplay. So earlier I mentioned how I wasn't convinced with the new gameplay hook, which was introduced in the first trailer. Well, they eased my mind by introducing a new ability for Zelda called Bind. This ability is similar to the Ultra Hand ability in Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, it's even green. And with this ability, you can move objects, including objects you can't make echoes for. You can uncover treasure, move enemies, and even move the echoes you make. So it's going to be super useful. The counterpart for this ability is the reverse bond. This ability lets you latch onto an object and move with where it's going. This would let you latch onto a bird and you fly where the bird's flying, connect to a spider, go up a wall, and even to creatures on the ground that move around fast, you can kind of move through the world a little bit faster. The applications for both of these abilities seem almost endless, and I think pairing them with the ecosystem is just opening up so many possibilities and so many different ways to play the game, which obviously is what they're going for. I mean, at this point, they already have me sold on the game. They already have this a day one purchase for me. But then I watched the Still World trailer, which starts off, I mean, when you start off a trailer with King Hyrule sacrificing himself to save Zelda, and then having him sink into the rift, with him turning pale white and his eyes becoming vacant, you know the game's gonna be crazy. In this trailer, they finally explained more about the rifts and the gameplay inside of them. When you enter a rift in various locations throughout Hyrule, it takes you to a place called the Still World. It was said in the trailer that those who are trapped in there will eventually disappear completely, which, come on, that's dark, and it's just giving me Twilight Princess vibes, Majora's Mask vibes. And when you're in the Still World, you see these people who are trapped, suspended in midair, kind of like they're possessed, and they're just floating there menacingly. And they're just floating there, and it just adds to the atmosphere. Speaking of the atmosphere and the theme or the vibes that this Still World is giving, it's just really saying Twilight Princess, Majora's Mask, which is, it's just so off from the art style because it's such a cutesy like toy art style, and I just love that, you know, contrast. It's just, to me, I love those games, Twilight Princess, Majora's Mask, some of my favorites, and I'm just here for it. I can't wait to explore the Still World. So if you're wondering about dungeons, it was announced in this trailer that they even said like huge dungeons are located in the Still World. I'm assuming beating the dungeons and the bosses that reside in them will be the key to removing the rifts from the different parts in Hyrule. So I think that's going to be pretty cool, and I could even see there being dungeon-like things above ground. I say above ground, but like in the normal part of Hyrule, but we'll see. And speaking of bosses, they look awesome. They look epic. I was really thinking they'd be kind of like watered down to fit the gameplay mechanic, but they seem pretty fun, and they seem like there's gonna be a lot of experimentation with the echoes and your different abilities to be able to beat them. And I mean, part of the trailer is that Volvagia, like from Ocarina of Time? Nintendo needs to stop this madness. I mean, that's awesome. I wonder if there's going to be other bosses we've seen before, but I'm loving it. So just like in Hyrule, echoes are super important for moving around in the Still World. Depending on where you enter the Still World from Hyrule, the environment's kind of, I don't know if they really match, like if you go in Gerudo Desert, if it's going to be like lava or if it's going to be really hot or something, and if you go in the volcano, it's going to have lava. I don't know if it's going to match that, but it said that the environments will differ in the Still World based on where you enter. So that's kind of what I assume it's going to be. This gives me hope that the Still World's going to be more varied and not feel stale, which I think when you have that second world mechanic, you're kind of susceptible to that, it being stale or a little bit plain. And even just the basic areas it showed Zelda walking around in, I just thought it kind of had that, I don't know, that popping color. It didn't feel really dry to me. So I think it's going to be really fun to explore in there. Going back to one of my concerns early on, which was the combat, in this trailer, they really took away any reservations and actually have me thinking the combat is going to exceed expectations. They introduced another new ability called sword fighting form, which Zelda finds a mysterious sword, and when she has it and uses it, for a limited time, she assumes a form where she has a sword and can basically fight like Link would in this game. From the trailer, you can see a meter on the top part of the screen, and it says level 1, so I assume you can upgrade this ability so you could maybe stay in the form a little bit longer. To replenish the meter, you need to collect energy from the Still World, so you're gonna have to make different trips, especially if you use that form often, which you might not, because the way the game's built, you could just use echoes and the other mechanics and not even use this if you don't want to. It was cool to see the sword fighting form used in combination with different echoes. It just really, once again, shows how diverse and deep the combat is going to be, depending on who's playing. And then we see Dampy's beautiful face pop up on screen. I mean, I love Dampy. And in this game, he makes gizmos called automatons, and these machines can be activated by Zelda twisting them up, and they help her by attacking enemies, doing maybe some defense things, it looks like, and they have unique characteristics compared to echoes. So they're definitely gonna have different attributes, which makes them worth using outside of using the echoes. But they can also be destroyed by enemies, so you're gonna have to be careful, and I'm sure you're gonna have to collect materials to replenish them. If there was a way to end this trailer that would just have me hit that pre-order now button, it would to have Link standing across from Zelda with red glowing eyes looking menacingly at her with the Master Sword and the iconic shield. I mean, it's not really bringing Dark Link back, but obviously Link's possessed or something, so it was a really cool way to show a different thing going on with the story, and it's just going to be a really cool dynamic where you're fighting Link or trying to fight him without hurting him or whatever the situation might be. The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom basically seems like it's what you would get if you mixed Link's Awakening on the Switch and Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom together, but in the best way possible. I thought this game looked good, but I'm now beyond excited. It seems like they did right by Zelda for her first solo game. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one, and let me know if you're going to be picking this game up, or if you want me to stream or do videos for it, because I might just do it anyway. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!